New York City football community, get your popcorn, because we're about to get into it. Off the Grid is going to be something like you've never seen before.
Yeah, Off the Grid, stand up. SBC, Black Elvis, Roddy, OG, it's wavy. Look, started from the bottom, so we off the grid. Tryna make it to the top, we soon live off the grid. Had dreams of making teams, I was just a kid. But we off the grid, yeah, we off the grid. When it come up, so we off the grid. Had dreams of the league, we was all just kids. And the bulls from the underground, they often miss the podcast, bringing light so they don't call it quits. Now pass the rock, I'm open on the 10. They call me wavy in the red zone for the win. Then do your dance on them, raise the roof, we got the fans roaring. Catch a pick and then do it again. Chicago ain't my home, but I can't bear to see us lose. Playing rough like Emmitt Smith, I'm bringing 22s. I move smooth through the traffic like convertibles. Try to play me man to man and I'ma have to prove you. Look good, feel good, play good. Only talking prime time, I need to pay good. Was more than just a game, we wasn't from the same hoods. The ball kept us off the block, had to try to remain good. Started from the bottom, so you know we off the grid. Trying to make it to the top, so we live off the grid. Had dreams of making teams, I was just a kid. Oh, we off the grid? Yeah, we off the grid.
What's up, people? What's up? Welcome back. We're here again, Off the Grid. I'm your host, the Commish, along with my boys, D-Dub and Roddy. What's good, fellas? All right. Yes, we're trying to play catch-up. For all of y'all that was with us last week, I picked Hayes to come back from behind against St. Anthony's, but that obviously didn't happen. They got stomped, 42-28.
Stomped is, I don't like stomped. Only reason I wouldn't say stomped is because if you look at the score, 42-28, that's not a bad margin. I don't, even that, like, you gotta like watch games too. You ever
Do the math, son.
You ever see?
You said it's not a bad margin, but what's the difference between?
I don't mean to.
Okay.
It's not that big. What was the other score? 7
well,
to
we
42.
had 42-7.
Now we know that's a way bigger margin than 28. All I'm saying is
but that was supposed to happen. 42-7.
Yeah.
Okay, so then it lived
But that 42-28, I don't think was supposed to happen. But I think it happened for a reason. When you make silly mistakes, or you have penalties, or players get called back, or you're just not, if you don't execute when you're supposed to, then there's not going to be any free opportunity in the playoffs to just make it up.
Playoff football definitely is a
They would have beat your class.
No comment.
Don't get it.
We had Christ the King played Farrell.
And
now, last week we had Christ the King doing a nice.
That was the
favorite, but they got beat 37-7. Is that a stomp?
And I thought this was the funny thing, right? So Farrell and St. Anthony's are kind of like the same in comparison team-wise, I think. No?
So, I think as a player, you have the right to. You played in the league. I've never played in the Catholic high school football league. From a coaching perspective, I don't know that I would say that.
They got different styles of play. I just think that, I don't know. I said that St. Anthony's was a team that I think could come back, and I said Farrell, not really, but it was kind of the opposite.
I would say offensively they do have very similar styles of play.
But I'd say St. Anthony's is way more like
Christ the King.
Listen.
But they played Farrell.
Let's stop for a minute, right? The Catholic high school league, as we've known it for the last 5 or 6 years, has not been what it looked like for the 20 years previously to them.
St. Anthony's was a team that was winning a lot.
They have St. Anthony's has won more Catholic high school championships than anyone. If you look at the roster and see all of the years, there's a whole section.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like when
15, 20.
When I looked at St. Anthony's, I look at them as like that powerhouse, organization. But then Farrell was just kind of like, I don't know, and they were the ones who ended up winning. You
got to do your history, son. Farrell has had some years in the Catholic high school football league where they were. This is what I think that people kind of don't really look at. Football, any sport, is going to be as good as the grassroots, right? So, youth football, I don't think was played in the last 10 years in suburban places like Long Island, Staten Island, as heavily as it was played in the inner city. I think the product of youth football in the inner city grew tremendously in the last 10 to 15 years, and as a result, you saw that on the high school level. That said, if you think that these programs just were cool with, not being in the conversation every year, clearly Somebody was
Nobody
working,
is.
and somebody
was working because
There
we
you
had the semi-final last week. So we had Farrell play stepping back. But we didn't get a chance to figure out who we liked. But it seems as Farrell might be the Cinderella in this. They won that game 24-21.
But that's a
That's
a dogfight.
24-21.
Even the other game too, 38-35.
We had Iona against St. Anthony. Iona got the bye, so they were the favorite and lived up to it, 38-35.
And I'm gonna be honest, that's a little bit of what I expected. Like usually when you're that first team, you get that bye. But the first team they played was a low seed team.
Listen,
So that first game is kind of like you probably beat that team in the regular season, so you're probably gonna end up in the championship. But now you gotta finish.
The Catholic High School League
Farrell didn't come all this way to lose. I'll tell you that.
in the last few years has come from one of two places: Stepping That
Or Hayes.
or Cardinal Hayes.
And
So
now it's complete. It's shifting. It's changing.
Well,
See,
is it? It has shifted. Not is it
shifted.
shifting? The championship week is coming.
So we have Iona versus Farrell. Going with favorites.
Yeah.
I'm going with Spags and Iona.
I'm going with the
Oh yeah.
I'm going with the under.
I hope they fight though. I never Iona's the first seed, but like don't come to the championship and just
Don't rest on your 2 victories.
just try to finish the job. I think they will though.
It's going to be a good game. I expect Farrell to come out and compete. Personally, I would be very surprised if they came out and like demolished Iona.
Probably not.
These guys put up a lot of points. I think it's going to be a decision that's going to come down to who's able to come out and have a decent defensive game. If it turns into a shootout, I just don't know that Farrell wants to get into.
That's going to be a good game. I'll wait and see. Don't forget to hit us up with your questions, predictions. Let us know what you think about these things. We also have a really, really, really good interview for you today.
Tell me about it.
So I'm going to shift it over to my partners and let them introduce.
Zahir Williams, the one and only cornerback.
Yeah, corner who actually is having a dynamic season this year. I want to front load the conversation for people at home. No matter where you land on how you feel about this is definitely an important conversation that we need to have. We often talk about the happy stories or the positive things that happen, but the journey of a youth athlete is it's not always straight, it's not always easy, and there are challenges that come along. So I think parents being able to sit down with their athletes and kind of give them some foundation on how to navigate some of these challenges, it's worth it here. A lot of people heard this dude's narrative based on other people's account of it.
Let's let the public judge, and we look forward to the commentary after you watch this interview.
Zahir Williams. So we're back at it. We're here with Zahir Williams, Cardinal Hayes class of 2016.
Also a Harlem Jet. I got to throw that in there because I was playing, he was playing, so that's where it started really.
Good stuff. So there's a Harlem Jet connection there from the youth level. Went to Bryant College and then transferred to Missouri Valley College. So just talk to us a little bit about your beginnings, man. It's interesting that, everybody automatically remembers the Jets, and, I read some information from one of your interviews. Your first youth football experience was actually with the Kips Bay Mustangs. So just talk to me about what it was like growing up in New York City, really not known for football, but as a kid wanting to play football, and how that worked out in your household.
So first off, thank you for having me.
Of course.
So like you said, New York City isn't really known for its football. Growing up as a kid, I was like 5-6 years old. I started playing basketball, and I was always a basketball player. And I would always like foul out of games, and I'd just be angry.
Physical guy.
Wasn't physical enough for me, you know what I'm saying? So it was one day, all my brothers had played football, but I was the basketball player. I wasn't into the sport just as yet, right? So it was one night, I was up maybe 3 a.m. I'm watching football on the TV. And I'm like, man, this is something I want to do. So my parents are asleep, obviously. So I run in their room, I'm crying, I'm in tears. I just banging on their door. I'm like, I want to play football, like sign me up for football. So my mom, of course, she was like, no, you're not gonna play football. Like, I don't want you getting hurt or whatever. I'm like, nah, I want to play football.
3 in the morning. I'm still on the. You ran in the room at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, tears down my face and everything. I was serious about it.
Respect it.
So my dad convinced my mom to sign me up for football, and first day they signed me up for the Kips Bay Mustangs. I was out there while my parents was handling the paperwork or whatever, and I'm just out there with my football, just throwing the ball up, just in the air, catching it by myself. You know, I was lost. I didn't know anyone out there. I was just a happy kid, just starting something new. So then one of the coaches that came up to me, he was like, "What's your name?" Coach Todd. He's like, "What's your name?" "I'm Zahir. Nice to meet you." He was like, "Yeah, you're gonna play quarterback for us." I'm like, "All right, like let's play quarterback. Let's do it. Whatever you want me at, let's do it." So yeah, first day out there, I'm just, you know, getting comfortable with the team, with the new guys. Just I'm getting snaps at quarterback. It was just, everything was just brand new for me, and I just fell in love immediately. And I played 2 seasons with the Kips Bay Mustangs. We didn't have really great success winning games, but I did hear of this ultimate team in New York City.
What was the name of this ultimate team, by the way?
I believe it's called Harlem Jets.
Okay.
Yeah, this team was like well known across New York City. As I played my 2 seasons with Kips Bay, I'm building a more
Talent.
I'm building, no, not talent.
Confidence?
I'm building a bigger network with football. I'm meeting new guys. I'm knowing more people that's playing the same sport as me across New York City. So I went and signed up for the Harlem Jets because I wanted to win some games. Harlem Jets, you know, they go to nationals every year in Florida from every level since forever. So yeah, signed up for the Harlem Jets, began playing with them. I was always a younger guy, so my birthday is late in November, so I was always like the youngest amongst my group of friends, and I was always smaller.
A lot of people don't understand the relevance of that in the youth football world, but birthdays are critical.
Right. If you're younger, you got to play on that. If you're 11, you might have to play with that 12 team.
Right. But that wasn't the case for me. I was 11 playing with the 10-year-olds.
He was that older lighter.
Yeah, I was older lighter. I was always the small kid. You know, I went into high school 97 pounds. But anyways, my story about the Jets. I was an older lighter playing with the Pee-wees and helped lead my team to nationals in Florida. Went down to Florida, and we didn't really win that many games. We didn't win any games.
How many games did I play? I only played 3, right?
You got that work.
We played 3 games.
Got that work.
0-3.
Yeah, it was definitely
Florida's
a humbling experience.
Florida's always a good time, though.
Yeah.
Florida's always a good time.
I love this,
a great
right?
time.
Because this is what is important. And I want you to just throw off a couple of your peers that you play. You played with like Abdullah.
You played with Eddie?
No, that was the group older than me.
So some of the guys that you came up with.
DeJour, I played with LJ Lucas.
Yeah. Okay.
Kellen.
LJ Tyona. Yep.
Yeah, LJ. Who else?
You didn't play with Eddie?
Guys. Nah, he was a group above me.
So, talk about how going to Florida, getting it done up here in New York, and pretty much like doing it on a heavy level every week. Like you knew every week you was coming out, you was putting pain in, and then getting to Florida and like actually getting some work and meeting some guys that were at your talent level and maybe a lot of times a little bit higher, right? Like, how did that help make you a better football player and impact what would happen next, which was your transition to high school? And, you know, talk to us a little bit about that.
So every week we'll come in the mindset of, you know, be the most disciplined team there on the field. Because we had the talent. Like I said, this team was very dominant. So every week in, week out, you know, we would just blow teams out like drastically. We had 1 loss before we made it to the nationals. And once we got to nationals, you know, our first game was a team from Virginia. So now in Virginia, they play football like hardcore. This is what they do.
The religion.
This is right. This is what they live. You know, New York City's a basketball sport, but my team was full of hungry dudes that, you know,
Wanted to go get it.
Just gritty, just, you know what I'm saying, just go out there and play balls out. First game against the Virginia team, things didn't turn out well. Everyone played their hearts out, of course. It's just these guys were just a bit better than us, obviously. That's what it came down to. And then the next game we played Alondo Knights from California. These guys were bigger than us, faster than us. They was making subs. They had maybe a 70-man roster. It was looking like high school or college football out there at the Pop Warner level. It was definitely like eye-opening for sure. But from that moment on, my next step I knew was high school ball. And I'm like, all right, well, these guys from California and Virginia, they're already developed. While me, I was playing older, lighter. I was super small, not as developed yet. So I'm like, well, going into high school, you know, I gotta step it up. I gotta put some work in. It's time to become a man. And
what do you think was some of the components that helped you make that adjustment? So what were the things that started the process of making you a more developed athlete and prepared to excel on the high school level?
Just being around my peers, just seeing others, how my teammates moved, how my teammates looked, how my teammates performed, and then I will go online and look at my future competition. So now it's like, all right, well, these guys are this size, they're running this fast, I'm not there yet. Like, with that moment right there, when I first stepped into that scale in my high school at Cardinal Hayes, I was 97 pounds. I'm like, man, like, I'm small. These guys are big. Like, all right, so now it's time to start hitting the weights. Now it's time to start eating. Now it's time to, you know, do things differently and treat my body the way a football player should. So, I mean, I was very motivated from my peers, and we motivated each other in many different ways. But for sure, being around Justin Covington and Tim Poindexter, like, those guys just
were different.
Yeah, those guys were different. Like, from the jump, the first day of high school, like, these were the studs, and they stood out from day one. I'm like, man, like, I want to be as good as these guys, if not better. Like, oh,
good stuff. So, you have a great DB career at Cardinal Hayes High School. I mean, as a guy who had two rising 8th graders trying to make a decision on, you know, where they're gonna go to high school, I don't know if there were two athletes that put more pressure on you than you and Calvin. Like, I think y'all came to me like at a game and was like, yo, dude, you know you can't send them to that other place, right? Inside joke, if you know, you know. But
No good.
at the end of the day, man, like, what was it like being the guy here at your local high school, playing in the Boomer Bowl game, making that, you know, Long Island versus New York City game, and then transitioning off to, you know, Bryan College, which from this area, that is, you know, one of the attractions. If you're a Catholic high school football player in New York City, Bryan's not a bad look. Like, that's the type of education trade-off for being an athlete that a lot of guys are looking for. So, like, how was that process? What were some of the challenges, and how did you manage getting through that process?
yeah. So, first things first, I showed up every day, just looking forward to get better at something, whatever it was. Just show up every day, do whatever was asked. I know in high school, I wasn't the best kid. You know, I gave one of my DB coach was a teacher at the school. So our relationship was really like, we were like this, kinda.
Yeah, of course.
George Lanisi.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Shout out Coach George.
Yeah, so I also had him as a teacher. And, you know, when you have a coach as a teacher, it's like, as a player, sometimes you kind of like lay back and be a little bit more comfortable.
That is true.
Yeah, well, I had to learn the hard way. I would like fall asleep in class when I knew I shouldn't have. I just thought I wouldn't be disciplined because this is my coach. So Coach George was always hard on me. So honestly, I think he was like harder on me than anyone else. Like there was days where he'll tell me I can't practice, or days where me and him, like I said, we were just so comfortable like with our relationship. I was taking it a little too far. It was days where me and him would have disagreements on the field. And this is just me just being a young athlete, not really mature as I am now. We would just be having disagreements on the field. He'll tell me, all right, I gotta get off the field. So I'm like, all right, that's like, what am I doing wrong? So yeah, every day I'll just work hard, and then, you know, I'll take days off. When we didn't have practice, I'll go to the field on 161st Street, go out there with the guys, do some drills, run a little 7-on-7 or whatever the case may be. Just always doing something to work on my craft. You know, I was always stayed busy. Like, I hate being in the house, so I was like, all right, well, if I don't like being in the house, then
Gotta be outside.
Gotta be outside. But it's like what I'm doing outside.
Yeah, at least doing something productive.
Right. I always had my cleats with me, always had my sneakers with me, or football, or whatever the case may be.
It's a lost art, kid. The athletes don't come that way no more, unfortunately. But I digress. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So playing in the Boomer Bowl, it was kind of like I was kind of surprised that I was invited. Because around that same time, I had also learned that I earned all-state honors as a defensive back, and I was also shocked. But I mean, like I said, like my confidence level on the field was like always out the roof, and I just love to compete. Whoever's in front of me is either me or them, and I like me against any man in this world. So. Yeah, playing the Boomer game was definitely like a great experience. It was fun. It was like I got to play alongside the best players in New York City, play against the best guys from Long Island, and getting that scholarship to Bryant University, which is a top 50 business school in the nation. It was like, man, like this is really a dream. Like this is a blessing. Not many people from New York City could say they had the opportunity to receive a Division I college scholarship, or even have the opportunity to attend such prestigious institution as Bryant. So yeah, I mean, I just want to say that school is definitely more important than your athletic abilities, only because your education can take you much further than your talent could, for sure.
I respect that.
So, you know, you get to college, you have somewhat of a challenging situation. It requires you to transfer and go to another school. But in that process, in the waiting, in the things are not going right, you have an opportunity now where you really legitimately are being recruited by an NFL team, and you have the opportunity to prepare and develop to showcase yourself for serious consideration. So one, talk to me about, you know, how it felt to go through that trying process and now come out on the other side of it and have some real tangible options ahead of you.
So my situation at Bryant, I was a victim of racial discrimination, which is not really brought to light in America. Even though racial discrimination it occurs on many different campuses and is not really spoken about or brought to light. So after being released from Bryant University, which wasn't my fault, I was attacked by 7 white hockey players on campus, and immediately they went to the public safety on campus and told them that I had broken into their house, vandalized their crib, and woke them out of their sleep and started attacking them, which was not true, which they later on in a hearing with myself and the hockey players and the president of the school, they admitted to doing what they did. But I was still left out of school, lost my football scholarship, when these hockey players still were able to graduate. And it was like super crazy to me. It was like a wake-up call, knowing that like racial discrimination is just, whenever it happens, or in some cases it's always brushed under the rug just so the image of the institution isn't tarnished. So that led me to limited opportunities. My first school that had reached out to me once I entered the transfer portal was Syracuse. They contacted me, why am I in the portal? I tell them the reason. They're like, all right, well, I was kicked out of school. Well, sorry, I can't help you. Bunch of Division I schools were contacting me, telling me the same thing. They can't really help me, can't do anything for me because I was still facing legal issues because I was also arrested for this as well. Ended up being a case, obviously, but they didn't want to take a chance on me just because it was still
optics
open.
were bad.
Right, they would be taking a big risk if things didn't go as it should have. So I transferred to New Mexico Highlands University. The head coach there, Marty Fine, was actually my head coach at Bryant my freshman year. Me and him had a great relationship. He's the one who recruited me out of high school. He loved me, I loved him, his family, everything he had. He gave me an opportunity, contacted me in middle of August, and they had already started school at this time. He said, you need to be here in 2 days. So I'm like, I'm on my way. Went to New Mexico Highlands. You know, I was still lost. I thought I lost everything I had. I didn't know what I would do next. So I went to New Mexico Highlands and I flunked every class. Like, I wasn't going to class. I was super depressed. Wasn't eating. Lost 20 pounds. Like, it was just bad. So from there, I had to take a semester off from school and was like, man, like, I don't know what's next. So I just thought my life was completely over. So I got into modeling and acting, which took off for me pretty fast. I got a few gigs. I walked 3 New York Fashion Week events, one with Amari Hardwick, Ghost from Power, walked in his show. Also got opportunity to walk in LA Fashion Week. So I'm like, maybe this is my new path. Maybe this is, you know, my next step in success away from football. So now I'm building myself again. Still trying to get back into schools. Still no opportunities. And then late July, Missouri Valley College had contacted me via Twitter. Their defensive back coach had said, like, are you still looking for an opportunity? Are you still looking to play football? I said, yeah. They offered me a scholarship right then and there. I committed immediately because I didn't have any other options. Again, 2 days later, I'm on a flight to Missouri. As soon as I got to Missouri, you know, it was just all gas, no brakes. It's like, all right, I have another opportunity to do what I do, like to do what I love. And it's either all or nothing because I know I only have 1 year left. So it's, all right, I haven't played in a game in 2 seasons. It's like, I really wasn't training much before I got to Missouri Valley College. I was modeling, acting, and I didn't think I would get back into school. I didn't think I'd get back into football. So once I got there, I was just super focused, just coming from a Division I school, going into an NAIA school. It's like these guys on the team look up to you. They think, you know, you have something great. So I knew that, and I just wanted to motivate these guys, and I knew that these guys were looking up to me. So I'm like, all right, well, all these guys are looking up to me. I got to make this worth it. I got to make this opportunity count and take full advantage of it. So I just show up every day, work hard, motivate everyone, push everyone, even the coaches. Like, I built a great relationship with everyone there. So it was amazing. And now I have a scout from the Kansas City Chiefs had recently came to Missouri Valley College to get some measurements and stuff for me and enter me into the NFL loop or whatever. Yeah, so all my information was released to all 32 teams, and
How does that feel?
it's a blessing. It feels unreal. Like, this is, like, time comes fast. You know, this is something I've been dreaming for, like, since I was 7 years old. Like, once I knew I wanted to play football, this is all I dreamed of. And it feels amazing. I mean, it's definitely a blessing though, but always got to stay humble and just know that, you know, there's always work to put in.
Yeah, I think that's good that you speak on how it's a blessing, because even like me, we played on the same youth team, but even younger kids who are younger than us, they look up and they say, oh, I want to play in the NFL. So you are actually a product of being able to come from New York, come from the worst situation that you could possibly be in, and still be able to, you know, grow and come out of it and be able to have an opportunity to go to the NFL, which is something that everybody looks to. So
yeah, I'm a true believer of everything happens for a reason. Even though this path that I went on isn't something that I expected, or, you know, the normal path that a high school athlete would look to go down to get to the next level. But I'm very grateful that I went through everything that I went through, because I was able to, you know, come out on top. And with everything that I had going on, I'm overcome it. Some way, somehow, make the best of my situation. So here it is.
That's what's up, man. So to all of the youth players from the city, like, here's a guy who didn't have necessarily the measurables people would expect, walk into high school 97 pounds soaking wet, but, you know, committed yourself to a process, and now you got, you know, great opportunities happening for you. So for guys that need some motivation, something tangible, look at it right here. This isn't, you know, some make-believe fairy tale.
we appreciate you for, you know, spilling it, telling your story, letting the people know how you went through it, and ultimately, like he said, you know, you came out on top and you have the opportunity to go big, so let's do it.
Thank you.
That's what's up, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Don't be a stranger, bro. When you got that NFL helmet,
that's what I'm saying.
We need you back, brother. Don't forget about it.
There's tickets everywhere.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
My boy.
It's Zahir Williams from Missouri Valley College, and you're watching Off the Grid.
We're back. Thanks for tuning in this week. That was a really heavy story, man, but I'm glad to see that as a testament to the character young man that he is, perseverance-wise, that he was able to get through that situation, and that, you know, the world did not end on that day.
And I'm more happy at just like he was a Harlem Jet kid, a Hayes kid, like really a guy that I could like look up to and like take baby steps after. Like now he's been at Bryant, now he's at Missouri Valley, but he's doing his thing, getting NFL prospect look, so can't ask for much more.
Shout out to Zahir.
Also, shout out to a guy from the other side of the grass. This will probably shock him. Trill Williams popped up this weekend at the Step in That game to support his team. Another dude that came through the Catholic High School League, was a dude.
In the NFL right
and
now.
is in the NFL now on the Dolphins roster. So shout out to Trill.
And even though I'm not a Step in That guy, it's NYC love. Always NYC love.
Cool.
We appreciate y'all for coming back, tuning into another episode. Always like, comment, and subscribe. Hit us with what you want to see next, and we'll be back at you next time.
Yeah, off the grid, stand up. SBC, Black Elvis, Roddy, OG, it's wavy. Look, started from the bottom, so we off the grid. Tryna make it to the top, we soon live off the grid. Had dreams of making teams, I was just a kid. We off the grid, yeah, we off the grid. When it come up, so we off the grid. Had dreams of the league, we was all just kids. Me and boys from the underground, they often miss the podcast, bringing light so they don't call it quits. Now pass the rock, I'm open on the 10. They call me wavy in the red zone for the win. Then do your dance on them, raise the roof, we got the fans roaring. Catch a pick and then do it again. Chicago ain't my home, but I can't bear to see us lose. Playing rough like Emmitt Smith, I'm bringing 22s. I move smooth through the traffic like convertibles. Try to play me man to man and I'ma have to prove you. Look good, feel good, play good. Only talking prime time, I need to pay good. Was more than just a game, we wasn't from the same hoods. The ball kept us off the block, had to try to remain good. Started from the bottom, so you know we off the grid. Trying to make it to the top, so we live off the grid. Had dreams of making teams, I was just a kid. Oh, we off the grid? Yeah, we off the grid.